In this episode, Brian talks about hiring and firing mistakes that he has made over the last 20 years of employing staff to achieve his business goals. You'll hear about a recent hire of a family member and why, if it was a good decision to fire them fast on their 6th day, and the consequences, good and bad, of that hire and fire. Let me know what you think of this episode by leaving Ryan a review.
Nothing but the truth on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, you'll get nothing but the truth. This offensive and explicit episode covers current issues, trending topics, and more that will punch you in the face with the truth. If you can't handle that, don't listen, because Ryan does not hold back. And if you're up to no good, we're watching.
Hey podcasters, I just want to talk to you guys about hiring and firing. I mean, how long have I been in business? 20 years. Since the year 2000, when I first started to invest in property and bought my first investment property, I've had staff. So for 20 years, I've had staff. That's been from, one member of staff all the way up to, what did we get to? We got to about 12 employees in the office full time, which was just before the credit crunch. So that would have been about 2008. Or in 2008, at the peak, we had, 12 staff. Yeah. So for 20 years, I've been an employer, okay? Now, when I first started out employing people, maybe it was more of, not firing them as fast as they should have been fired when they weren't performing. So maybe I carried a few people, you could say. Maybe I carried a few members of staff over the years, which is my fault, my loss, when they should have basically gone, when they wasn't good enough. Maybe they haven't performed, maybe they haven't, or constantly not hit their targets. Maybe they've been a bit poisonous, like a complainer, a moaner, which just is a cancer in a company. It just poisons and pollutes and infects everybody else in the company with the morale, brings them down, brings the company down, brings the motivation down and everything else, and the standards. So yeah, in the past, I've made mistakes by employing the wrong people from the start, and then even when I notice I've got the wrong people, taking too long to get rid of those people.
Let me step in real quick. I share a ton of business and investment tactics on this show, and it's a shame that there's no interaction on a platform like this, which is why I've created a Facebook community group called Property Crash Course, where I get to answer all of your questions. So you just post a deal or post a question and I'll show you where the money is in your deal or answer your question for you. So help me to help you in your business right now by asking me anything you need help with. Does that sound fair? Just go to Facebook and then search the groups and then type in Property Crash Course.
Maybe on one hand, scared of the employment laws and everything else written in the employee's favor, but to be honest, no, that's not really me. I've just fired people because, they needed to be fired at some points over the last 20 years and just taken the hit if they take it to a tribunal. If there's problems, which I've had in the past, won every single case that I've had to defend or not defend because it hasn't actually gone to a court or an adjudicator for like unfair dismissal and whatever you call it. People get disgruntled when you fire them and then they come back with some kind of claim. Lucky we're not in America because they sue you for everything. But then they come back with some kind of claim like I was ill or I was on sick leave or somebody in my family was dying or I had a mental breakdown. Any excuse that they would come up with and file on the grounds that it was unfair dismissal because I did this or I didn't do that or their position. So I've had many of those you can imagine in the past, always having staff over the last 20 years. But what have I learned over those 20 years, which is more prevalent now, is sometimes it's been not really a game, but because I enjoy the process, because I enjoy business, because I enjoy making money and everything else that comes with it, I have been guilty of not really burying my head in the sand, but always seeing the best in someone, even when they're only showing you their worst. So do you understand what I mean by that? Always sort of, maybe you've got a bad employee, maybe you got a bad hire, maybe they're not meeting their targets, maybe they're poisoning the team, but for some reason I've just let it go on and on and on and on and on, by giving them the benefit of the doubt, thinking it'll get better, thinking their problems at home will get better, and then, you know, they'll get back to how they were, or, you know, thinking the respect will come back, or the performance will come back, and things like that. But every single time, to be totally honest, I've got that wrong, because it's never got any better. They've never, you know, got their work ethic back. They've never dealt with the problems at home that are bringing them down in the office. They've never really got over their own personal hurdles and challenges, or, I don't know, develop themselves to overcome whatever problem or insecurity that they have in the work environment. So I've given them as much chances and opportunities that I can, and they've never really got any better, and I've ended up firing them, or they've had to leave. So what have I learned by that? I've learned that I should not be playing in business when it comes to hiring and firing staff, not turning a blind eye to certain things. I need to be more on the ball, more sharp, more harsh, but kind at the same time. So fair, but hard at the same time. The reason I'm giving this example is recently I hired a family member. Okay, now I've already gone round in this full circle to the position that I now don't take any crap. And this weekend, 2 people got fired. A linen company got fired. There's going to be some more firings this week. Okay, guys, because it's zero tolerance. Now I've got a big company. Now I've got a big business. Now where, you know, before the pandemic, we were close to, what were we doing? Around about $500,000 a year before the pandemic. Because of the pandemic and everything that's happened during the pandemic, and the deals we've acquired during the pandemic, and how much we've scaled during the pandemic, and the deals we've taken on, and acquired a hotel, and in the process of buying the second hotel right now, because of those deals we've taken on in the pandemic, as we come out of this now, my company will be doing closer to about, it's going to be closer to nearly $1 million a year. It's going to be closer to nearly $1 million a year. So we've definitely increased turnover by at least 35%. At least 35% during the pandemic, maybe even more, okay? So I'm thinking our numbers now will be closer, just shy of $1 million a year as we come out of this pandemic, which I'm talking, where are we now? What are we now? August. Early August, yeah. By the end of August, I believe we will be at nearly $1 million a year. Okay, so anyway, the company's growing, the company's expanding, the company's building. We're taking on more staff, more responsibility. There's more money flowing around. There's more problems. There's more challenges. There's more of everything, which is here at an abundance. More money, more problems. More staff, more problems. Okay, so it's just growing pains, you could say. Because of that, I now have to be completely sharp and harsh on these important decisions that affects everything every single day.
Make sure you've subscribed, because tomorrow you'll get Show Me the Money on Wednesday. If you have a deal right now and you don't know the best way to structure it, if you post a deal in the community group on Facebook called Property Crash Course, Ryan will help you unlock hidden profits and save you from locking yourself into a loss on those bad deals that every property sourcer wants you to buy.
So I hired a family member recently to be an apprentice, because they wanted to learn. So they get in basically masterminded by me for a year at no cost. And I'm also paying them around about £2,000, £2,100 a month to be mentored by me, to learn about property, business, come to meetings, come to deals and everything else. They got a car, they've got a property, they got a shared house that they're in, they've got a fuel allowance, they've got a 4x4 car they've been given, they've got to be a driver and pick things up and drop things off and everything else that comes with it. And they're getting a proper salary, around about $2,100 a month. The package is worth. Now it's very difficult because this person is my nephew. It's also my sister's son. So the whole family side are involved, and then we've got the work side. But because there was problems, the first weekend, they just, the new employee, my nephew, just did not turn up for work on Sunday. We had housekeepers waiting outside properties with no linen because his job was to drop the linen off and bring the dirty linen back. We had housekeepers that couldn't get into properties because they had no keys, because if somebody leaves the keys in the property, etc., the driver had the spare keys and he was nowhere to be seen because he went out drinking the night before. So he was drunk. So nobody had keys to certain properties where those guys left the keys in the properties. Nobody had linen. Nobody could collect linen, etc. And we didn't have the vehicle. The work vehicle, which was just given to him, we now also didn't have because he had it parked up somewhere. Anyway, massive problems. We had to close some properties off on Sunday, which meant it lost money. And my team was still working around 10 p.m. because we had to fire some other housekeepers for not turning up on the same day. So 2 people just did not turn up and they both got fired. Now that sounds harsh because it's my nephew. But if I would have continued and let things go on, and the first weekend we've had that problem, it's just laying the foundations for the lowest possible expectations. If they just don't turn up one day and everything is fine on the Monday morning and they're not properly reprimanded, it's as if, oh, well, that's fine. We can just not turn up. We can just have days off when we want to have days off. We can just go out drinking the night before and not be, fit for work and just, not do the things we're supposed to do. But that is, it's a massive problem in the first week. This was the 6th day. So maybe you guys think this is harsh. Maybe you guys think this is out of order. But this is where I have to be firm, but have to be fair. So I had to fire my nephew the first week he started. Now, I've already had phone calls from my sister. No doubt today I'll get conversation with my mother and then my uncle and everybody else, but giving him a second chance and this and that and that. But when I'm trying to build this big company that's got momentum now, that I don't want that momentum to stop at any cost. It needs to go forwards. We need to be going forwards fast. And I need to have the right people around me, the right team around me, especially when it takes my time to train them, to show them everything, to set them up with things. It takes a lot of time and investment. So finding the right people is crucial, and firing the people that aren't part of the vision is also equally crucial at the same time.
He's a #1 Amazon bestseller. He's an NLP manipulator. He's a property course seller. He's a Lamborghini driving multi-millionaire property guru. Forget that same old boring I am me narcissistic podcast format, because nobody gives a fuck. This podcast is all about you. So I'm taking these few seconds to thank you for subscribing, to thank you for leaving your 5-star reviews, and thank you for sharing this show with all of your friends. My team and I will keep bringing you these episodes and answering all of your burning questions in my Facebook community group called Property Crash Course. If you can just keep telling all of your friends about this show.